What's up, Painless Flipping podcast listeners? Before we dive into today's episode, I've got something special for you. Recently, I had the pleasure of joining an amazing podcast, and I wanted to share that conversation with you all. It's a fantastic discussion you won't want to miss. So without further ado, let's jump into that crossover episode and hear what we had to say. Enjoy.
Hey guys, welcome to the Titanium Vault. I'm your host, RJ Bates III, and today I'm sitting down with Nathan Payne. How you doing, man?
Dude, I'm feeling great. Feeling good today.
Feeling good. Well, I'm excited for today's episode. I have to say, I think you and I probably have put out more content for Batch than any other two individuals. Maybe Jamil Damji. Maybe there with us. But it's been a long time coming. There you go. It's been a long time coming for you and I to sit down and have a chat about that. So for the people that have not consumed any of your content or maybe don't know who you are, explain what it is that you do in real estate investing.
Yeah. My name is Nathan Payne. I've been in real estate for about 5 years now. And, I've done it all. I've gone like nationwide wholesaling. I've just done it myself. I mean, I've gone through the roller coaster ride and trying to figure out what works for me. And what I do now is I have like a small team. I used to have a bigger team before the pandemic hit. And now it's just like me, a VA. And my goal is to do deals efficiently, profitably, and leverage my network to do deals. So I don't really have a ton of marketing spend right now. It's mainly just doing deals through JVing, agent outreach, my network, social media. And, I like that because I had the big team. I did it all. And it's kind of like stressful for me. It wasn't really the lifestyle I wanted. So, doing deals here and there and teaching people how to get started. That's what I like to do. And that's what I focus on. So that's me.
So I want to ask about that because this has become a topic that I'm hearing more and more. The big team, it wasn't the lifestyle that you wanted.
Right. Yeah.
That's a really important statement for people to understand because it's so easy in today's world with social media to see the Pace Morbys and the Jamil Damjis and these people that are just crushing it with these huge numbers, right?
Yeah.
We're doing 60, 80 deals a month. How did you say, hey, I'm okay not doing that so I can have the lifestyle that I want?
You know what? Like the pandemic actually really helped because like we were doing well, like everybody was, right? You could sell anything. But once we're in Utah, right? So it really slowed down here because the prices jumped up so fast and they like stopped really quick, right? And we actually got crushed on a couple flips at that time because they weren't selling after interest rates went up. But just for me, I sat down. I had a business partner at the time, and we're like, dude, like this is continuing this way is just not something I'm like interested in. Like we went through acquisition reps, so we went through leads managers, we went virtual assistants and acquisition reps in like Colombia. We did it all. And it just was like, bro, I came to a point I'm like, dude, I'm really good. And I don't even feel like I close half the deals even when we had our team.
Right.
Like, I can just do this. And when it breaks down, you got marketing spend, you got overhead, and you split it with a partner 50-50. Now, I don't recommend getting a 50-50 partner as you go longer because it just doesn't make sense as you get better. But you don't really have that much left over. Or at least my company didn't have a ton left over for profitability after like trying to learn and always improve. So I was like, dude, I got this. And that's what made me realize like the lifestyle is not really what I wanted. And I wanted to kind of work on my own as well. So it was just a good transitioning period. And where I'm at right now, it's really low key. I'm not really stressed about like $30,000, $40,000 marketing budgets in hire every month. It's just, doing deals through JVing, helping people, networking. So that's, to answer your question, that's the lifestyle, how I came.
I think that's very respectable, right? I mean, in 2023, it's just so easy to be influenced by what other people are doing. And for you to sit down and say, hey, I want my life is more important than vanity metrics, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And that's essentially what it can be at times, right? There are people out there that are running great businesses at those high volumes, but there is a lot more pressure that comes along with it. And that's not always the point in becoming an entrepreneur. We always preach freedom. Very rarely does the entrepreneur gain freedom. They kind of create this more difficult job. So
exactly, yeah.
One of you've talked about it, JV deals, direct to agent. I want to talk to you about the direct to agent aspect of this because that's something that we don't really do here a lot.
Right.
So talk about, first and foremost, what is that and how are you utilizing that in your business?
Yeah, so direct to agent is doing deals off of the MLS, and not only if they're listed on the MLS, but it's networking through agent outreach and finding agents who have networks and like talk to sellers who are like, hey, I don't want to put my house on the market. And instead of the agent not having an outlet, right? You've networked with them and you've said, hey, if you come across any of those situations, let me know and I'll get you an offer within like 24 hours. I'll be super quick. So you're providing value to that agent when they run into situations like that. And I get texts all the time now through networking of like, hey, I have this seller. He's old. He needs to repair the roof. He has to do this and he doesn't want to list it. He wants to know what a cash offer would look like. Now that's what it is. But you know, when you do a deal off of the MLS, it's just making an offer that makes sense for your buyer, for whoever you're going to wholesale it to. And you know, connecting that like in the way we do it here in Utah, like you have to disclose that you're wholesaling it. So sometimes I'm tight with my buyer. So I'll just say, hey, just you sign. I've just connected you on this deal that I know that you wouldn't know that you could negotiate this low. You just go and they'll pay me through an invoice. You know, we'll sign a little, you know, invoice and they'll get paid at title. So that's essentially what it is. It's just networking and talking, really just getting on the phone with agents and really anyone and finding out what the situation is. Because when you look at the listing prices, everyone's like, oh, there's no deals. Well, of course, there's no deals if you just look at list price. Like, you know, they're trying to get as much as they can. But when you call, there's a lot motivated sellers are on the MLS because a lot of them don't know that me and you exist. They just go right there. So a lot of opportunities out there, especially right now with interest rates and houses not moving, especially in my market. A lot of good stuff out there.
What % of those deals on agent outreach are listed in comparison to kind of those hip pocket, like, hey, but we don't want to list it. What's the cash offer? What's the kind of the difference between those two?
I would say you're not going like the pocket listings that for me, at least they're not like coming in like daily, right? Those are hit and miss. The more of the time is spent in making the offers and talking to agents on the MLS. So the percentage of that is higher, but I would say I do more deals through JVing as well, just from having my network and being loud about what I do. That's probably a higher percentage.
Gotcha. On the ones that are listed on the MLS, are you a realtor yourself? Are you using a realtor, or are you kind of leveraging the fact that there is no buyer's commission and saying, hey, realtor, you can kind of get that double representation fee?
Yeah, you definitely not. I'm not an agent. Don't plan on being an agent. So I do use like, hey, I'm unrepresented. Now, a lot of the agents here have been hearing that nonstop. So they're like, big deal, dude. Like a ton of people have said that. So that's not as juicy as people would think. I mean, some agents like love it, but a lot of the agents are like, hey, I'll just give the discount to the seller, which is fine. It doesn't matter. At least it enables you to get a lower price. So you can use that, but you know, everyone's talked about the scripts. Like I said, it's almost like, who cares?
Gotcha. And when you're making the offers on MLS, because here's the thing, I've talked about this frequently. 2014 is when I learned to do wholesaling, spent $65,000 to essentially learn how to get deals off the MLS. Okay. Mm-hmm. I got screwed. Okay.
Wow. That's a lot of dough, bro.
yeah, exactly. So I thought I was learning how to actual wholesale. They just essentially were like, hey, go make offers on the MLS. Mm-hmm. So when I was doing that, we were just kind of, hey, there's a house for $300,000. That's the asking price. It's as is. It's highly distressed. We were reverse engineering and just making our offer. Are you making the offer, or are you calling that agent and having a conversation prior to making the offer?
So great question. So did the same thing you did, and I did a lot of it, and I didn't get a single deal. When you send a low offer, just a straight low offer, and just expect a response they're going to take it, like I'd say that's like extremely like low chance, right? But having that been said, I do have a CRM that I use. I call it the Payneless CRM. I've white labeled it, but it does send out automatic offers at like 70% of the list price. And I use this just to get the agent to respond. Not that they'll accept it, because again, they're not gonna be like, great, let's do it. Like, you just offered like almost half of what I
Right.
listed it for. No, so I just get them to respond, because as you know, like calling agents even to get a hold of them like is can be a nightmare. So I just want to see who's actively responding. They say, hey, no, you freaking suck, that's the worst offer ever. Then I say, hey, no, I totally get that. Let's hop on the call, because that's not my final offer. I was just trying to see if we could communicate, right? So to answer your question, yeah, no, like just shooting out that low offer I will just say from experience, won't help you build a business. It won't help you do multiple deals. You have to get on the phone.
You know what was crazy when we were doing that? Because honestly, for like our first 2.5 years, that's all we did.
Right.
We didn't know direct to seller marketing. And so what I always thought was crazy is the amount of offers that we made where we could never find a way to communicate with the listing agent.
Yeah.
Like you said, couldn't get them to answer the phone.
Dude, it's crazy.
They never countered. They never responded to the email or the offer that was sent. Is that still common for you? And have you found a way to overcome that?
Yeah. So when you send that email, like I would say, like, let's say out of 200 offers sent, you'll get like maybe 70. Well, let's say 70 to respond to like, you're an idiot. Right. So it's very low that like, I would say people that agents respond to like a low offer. But even when you call, it's like, they don't answer. And for me, I would fire my agent if he didn't answer a call, like about the house. So I call 3 times. And the reason why I call 3 times is I'm from Georgia originally. So I have a 404 number. So when I call, usually people think it's spam. So the first call, they don't answer. Second call, they usually answer second, but third, it's like, yeah. So that's what I do, is like call 3 times. And if they don't answer, it's a text, and then, follow up. But it's usually, again, what I've seen is spam is really hurting a lot of people. So if you just call once, I don't even answer my phone when people call me once. Right. Like, so yeah, I would say the multiple calls helps.
On the disposition side, listed property on the MLS, what pushback are you getting from your buyers that, hey, this is a listed property? What value are you bringing to me? How do you overcome that objection from your buyers?
Great question. So what I teach in the painless wholesaling method is I bought like a giant wholesaling list, like from Nick Perry, like, Nick Perry, like, because I thought that was the key. I thought like having the biggest buyers list was so important, blasting it out. And then I realized like, hey, I'm selling to like the same people. Like I like, it's the relationships that are getting a lot of these deals done, not just blasting it out and hoping I get lucky. So the way I do is I actually reach out to my buyers almost before I make that final offer, just to verify if they're good. And I reach out. So sometimes I don't even have the contract on the MLS. I'll call my buyer and I'll just say, hey, I've been negotiating with this agent. I think this is a good opportunity for you from your buy box, what you told me. What would you pay for this? Now, if they come in, they're like, the house is listed at 300 and they're like, I can do 250. And the agent's like, hey, I can go to 260. I would say, hey, look, I know you can do 250. I'll try to get lower, but they're at 260. Can you come up a little bit higher so I can get paid? So if they come in at 270, I offer 260, make 10K. So it's a lot of negotiation even before the deal's locked up with buyers I'm tight with. Now, if I just sent this out to a giant list, I run the risk of, someone just calling the agent directly, but I'm not letting every buyer in Utah know about this situation that I've found.
Right.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
And here's the thing. As you're talking about this, like I'm reminiscing back to 2015, 2016, 2017, because this is what we were doing.
Right.
And I told you about last night. I was on a Zoom call for a couple hours, and they were asking me about my first couple of years of wholesaling. And they were like, how did you do so many deals and make so much money? Dude, exactly what you're talking about right here. Built a couple really strong, really strong relationships, and then essentially reverse wholesaling, right? Like, hey, what can you pay? 300,000. All right. I already know I got them at 285. Can you do 280? Hey, boom, I just paid 20K.
Exactly.
And there is no acquisitions commission. There is no overhead. There is no marketing expense to that. That's the beautiful part about this agent outreach. I do think it's a solid way to get started if you don't have a marketing budget. Now,
Agreed.
you have done direct to seller marketing.
Yeah, yeah. And those
So
tend to come up all the time still, because they're through your network, through reaching out, you come across leads that are off market as well. So
do you ever miss the direct to seller marketing and really, because the one of the downfalls, at least for me, on the agent outreach was and wholesaling off the MLS is that you're kind of at the mercy of those properties being available.
right, competition, right?
Well, with direct to seller, you're always creating your own leads, right? At some point in time, you've seen everything that's listed in your market on the MLS. So,
Right.
is that something that you kind of have to navigate through, or is it a struggle, or is it just something that you don't really care about because you're kind of flying solo right now with a small team, and it's like, hey, it doesn't really matter to us?
I do miss the conversations. I feel like, when you're talking to an agent, it's strictly business and numbers. But when you're talking to a seller, it's like a lot more about the motivation. What are they trying to accomplish? So I do miss that, but I still have like leads that come in through off market, through like students that don't know how to navigate the situation. Then I can hop on through JV deals. Actually, I have some platforms that I get leads from, and then if I close a deal, I pay them a percentage, and they're off market. So I still get those opportunities, and I enjoy them. But I just know through doing like the pay per click and all that stuff to generate leads, if you're striking out and you're not getting those deals, that those costs can pile up pretty high. So for me, it's like, not that I can't close those deals. I feel like I'm a pretty good sales guy, or good at taking sellers through their options. Right. It's just the stress and having that. I'm like, I'd rather not, when I have all these options that are available that don't cost any money.
So let's talk about the JV deals, because you say that's a big part of your business, right?
Right.
Is it strictly students, or do you have a way to essentially kind of create interest in people wanting to JV with you?
Yeah, so I would say both, right? Like I have students that bring me deals, and even if I tell them to do like agent outreach and JV and do all this stuff, like people always gravitate to off market. They're always like, hey, let me just try. It's a little easier, right? And then they realize they're both difficult, right? You both have to work hard at both. So I have a lot of opportunities where they bring me those. Like I had a student, for example, he had a deal. It was ARV was like 320, 350, and he had it like 275. He thought that was where it needed to be, right? So I'm like, hey man, I ran the numbers, and I even asked the buyer, we need this thing at like 180, and I have a buyer 200,000. So you're 75, like $100,000 off.
Right.
So I was like, hey, go ahead and just tell the seller, hey, you got your numbers wrong. You need it lower. And the seller agreed to 100K less. So we did the deal. So it's things like that where it's like, hey, you did your numbers wrong. Just go. And if he wasn't able to negotiate it, and, I could hop in and be like, let me talk to the seller. So yeah. I do miss it, but I do get it. I do get quite a bit of it and like it. So
I wish I could have heard that conversation. Like, hey, I actually made a typo on the contract. that first number is actually incorrect.
Yeah.
We need to drop it by one number.
It's really funny too, because like I got into this business because I was in door-to-door sales for like 6-7 years, and before that I went on a mission for my church. So I was like really good at taking rejection, overcoming it. So I actually got into wholesaling because I thought it was like completely a sales game. Like you could convince anyone to take a low offer, and soon I realized like, hey, you got to find the right opportunities. You're not convincing anyone you're not calling me and I'm not going to sell my house to you for, half off. So it's been interesting to see how even I lose out on deals to people with limited sales ability if they can pay more. So it's really interesting to see how this business navigates with best offers and stuff like that. Yeah.
Going back to the agent outreach and even the JV deals, are you trying to convert any of those to creative finance terms, or is it pretty much just cash because you're wholesaling?
If my cash offer isn't accepted, I always, ask, hey, would the seller be open to terms if we can get them closer to their asking price?
Right.
those are far and few between. You always see the stories of like, oh yeah, I'm doing all these creative deals. I'm like, hey guys, that's great. I don't know what you're telling or whispering into these people's ears, but I don't find that many opportunities. I pitch them, but most people that want to do creative that don't really need it. They want like a ton down, and once you need a ton down, it kind of kills the cash flow, kills the deal for being worth it to a lot of buyers.
I also personally think location matters when it comes to creative finance.
Right.
Like with you being in Utah, which by the way, we're about to talk about Utah. I'm not a fan of Utah. Okay.
It's a tough market, brother. I would, well,
I think it's the hardest market, just my personal opinion. I just don't think Utah likes me.
Well, people here are just like think they're all so savvy and smart and investors themselves, like entrepreneurs. Like anyway.
But I think the market matters, where you're going to be able to get either seller finance or sub two. I think that impacts your ability to do that. So
agreed.
Let's talk about Utah for a second. So
let's do it.
The first time I did my 50-day challenge, trying to get a deal in all 50 states, the only state I did not get a deal was Utah. It was the only state. I pulled inside of my batch leads over 15,000 records in Utah and did not get a deal. Okay.
Oh my goodness, yes.
That was in 2020. I continued to try to get a deal in 2021. I continued to try to get a deal in 2022. Still didn't get a deal. Got one under contract. My acquisitions guy completely messed up the contract.
I actually talked to your acquisitions guy about that deal. Yeah.
We had to drop it, right? He totally messed up. So then 2023, I just now got a deal. First time I've ever gotten a deal under contract in Cedar City.
Nice.
Now, we're still, we got a potential offer on the table. Okay. It's a creative deal, funny enough.
Okay.
Now, my thing is with people trying to decide what market they want to be in. If they live in a market like Utah, should they deal with the difficulties of that local market? Or are you saying, hey, guys, I know how hard it is to do deals in Utah. I think you should go to Ohio. I think you should go to Michigan. Or do you think they should try to do it because they're local to that difficult market?
I don't like preach the local, like if you live in the area, work in the area. I just say pick a major metro. That's what I say. Like, so wherever, like Florida's, Atlanta's, like you said, the Ohio's, like those are, there's going to be more opportunities. There's just more distressed properties in those areas. I feel like Utah, I don't know, the weather doesn't really beat up the houses that much. People are, I would say they're pretty savvy with their money, investor wise. So like, I wouldn't say there's that much crap like as there would be in like no offense to the Midwest, but like there's just way more stuff out there, so to answer your question, if someone's brand new and they live in Utah but they don't want to start here, completely fine. I virtual is the way to go in my opinion. If you can meet, the thing also in Utah is like if you go sit down with a seller, it's way easier to get that contract than versus over the phone. So that's tough. So if you're going to be in Utah, you probably should be here,
Right.
Yeah.
So you talked about previously you have done virtual wholesaling.
Right.
What made you decide, hey, I'm in one of the toughest markets in the United States. I'm going to get rid of the virtual model and kind of just go strictly here in Utah. What made you decide that?
Well, so the nationwide model presents some difficulties as well with dispo because you're like, wow, great, now I get a ton of leads, but it's like, okay, well, nobody wants to buy these in areas, or it's difficult to sell them. So when I came back to Utah, and also I'm in Tampa, Orlando, and Atlanta, so I'm still in other places I focus on. But when I came back to Utah, the amount of people that are just always going to watch YouTube videos or try and find opportunities, but not know how to close them, have those issues. Like that's what I'm kind of capitalizing on, is helping those people in Utah. So, and agents and relationships, they run into those. So it's not so much that I'm willing to spend like tons of money in marketing in Utah, but I have those, like, I know who needs help, and that's kind of how I'm making it work for me here. Does that make sense? Yeah, it
does make sense. And also when you talk about those Southeast states, right? Florida, Georgia, those are some great places to wholesale. right? They're juicy spreads. There's motivation there. They're larger cities. I think those are the places, like when you're talking about, hey, if you need to be virtual, because there are certain places like, dude, if you live in LA, which a ton of people live in LA, you probably shouldn't try to wholesale in LA. Like I've yet to talk to someone on this podcast on 250 plus episodes where they're like, I'm crushing it in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, you've got to look elsewhere. Those are places that you should be looking. Those larger cities that, you know, hey, you hear repeatedly, Florida, Georgia, Ohio, Michigan, places like that, where you're going to be able to get deals. So let's talk about this painless wholesaling method. You know, this is your education, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
So how did that come about, and why do you do that? I think it's important for people to understand why you started that.
You know, it comes down to like how I learned. When I first got started wholesaling, I took my philosophy of like door knocking and just like going out and taking action like to wholesaling. And I knocked doors. I actually got one of my first deals through knocking. So that was cool. But then I was like, man, I got to get more deals. So I got a coach, and my coach was like, hey, do mail. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna do mail. And he's like, spend like $5,000 on mail. And it was like unknown equity, absentee owner list as in Utah, right? So I was like, dude, I'm gonna double up on what he said because I'm a beast, you know? So I doubled up on the mail, spent 10K and didn't get a single deal, right? And I'm like, in the beginning, you spend $10,000 on marketing, get like 5 mailer calls, you're like shook. You're like, oh my gosh. And I think that's like going back to like how people get started. I think that's like what's out there a lot is like, if you spend money, if you go market, you will get a deal. But then it's taking out the equation that these people don't know how to negotiate yet. They don't know how to like, what's a deal? And a lot of the time they'll lock up something, spend or negotiate with the seller for like 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, finally get a house, be at the wrong price, and then, you know, not be able to sell it. So it's just like a very, I would say, stressful and like, what's the word? Like demotivating feeling to work all that time. And then because you lack that knowledge. So when I came back and I said, what is making me money that I'm not having to invest that much time, effort, and money into? And it was always through JVing, networking, knowing my market. So I was like, I want to teach people how to do deals the painless way, right? Like without having to go through that pain that I went through. Understand your market first, right? Like when I hear brand new investors, like they just started and they're like, I'm nationwide. I'm like, no, bro, don't do that. You're going to get yourself in a lot of trouble. And because you can't master every market. Like comping is like it's an art. Like it's not like you can just like, okay, 70% of the Zillow, it doesn't work like that. So anyway, the reason to sum it up, why I did this is because I was in the position, you were in the position of the new wholesaler. And if they jump too fast into marketing and trying to be a business owner immediately, they'll be out of business quickly. But if they go out, master market, develop relationships with the top buyers, see deals that are on the market and bring them to their buyers, they can make money quickly with little to no marketing spend.
Absolutely. And here's the thing. I've said this a couple of times recently, so especially on my YouTube channel. So if you're listening to this, I want to reiterate what I am saying and kind of tweak it a little bit for today's episode. I've talked about to get started. I think one of the most important things that you can master at the beginning is how to talk to a seller. Because if you could talk to a seller, you'll always have deals. And if you have deals, you can always JV with somebody else. Someone else can always dispo your deal. Someone else can TC your deal.
For sure.
But if you have deals, you're going to be okay. The tweak that I want to make based off today's episode is, if you learn how to talk to agents and develop relationships, you can always have deals. It's always just starting with the acquisition side of things. If you're doing that, that foundation can never be taken away from you. Because the facts are, whoever controls the deal controls the destiny of where the money flows. And that is the important part about this. And I think it's important for whether, you learn from someone like me that's big on direct to seller, or from someone like Nathan who's big on, hey, agent outreach, we can establish relationships. There's ways where we can get deals without having this huge marketing budget. it doesn't matter. It's still making sure acquisitions is like a core foundation early on. I think that's extremely important.
Of
Okay.
course. And can I add something about
Yeah,
acquisitions?
absolutely.
I think it's extremely important, huge. And I even look at like negotiating with agents and building relationships with buyers, a form of acquisitions. It's like you're building those relationships and you're showing them that you're worthy, like you can actually do what you're saying. Like if
Yes.
you call someone a buyer and you don't know what you're talking about, like they might not see the value in working with you. So you definitely need to know how to navigate a situation with the seller, how to go through the process. And it's okay to like not know, but like it's you definitely want to get that as soon as possible. So when you do get those opportunities, you can take it all the way.
So I have a question for you that you have no idea I'm going to ask you because it's not about you. It's about something that just happened here in Texas.
Okay.
This is crazy. I've never actually seen this. I got sent this link
Okay.
probably 5 or 6 times yesterday. There is now I don't know that this had anything to do with wholesaling. Okay. There is a gentleman here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. I think he was in his 60s. He was placing offers on MLS properties using a fraudulent proof of funds, going under contract, and then terminating. Okay. Pretty common, but I don't know what he was. I don't know that he was trying to wholesale. I don't really know what his end game was.
Yeah.
But he got arrested and there are criminal charges being pressed against him for being a fraudulent buyer. Now, the reason why is because these were listed MLS properties, and they're claiming that he caused harm to multiple sellers
Right.
by locking up their properties and then terminating, and did not have the means to close on the property. That is where they are coming with the criminal charges. On a much larger scale, because you and I are both, hey, we're out there, right? We're trying to influence people to do this.
Yeah.
It's a rather scary move, I think, that the realtors banded together, the title companies banded, like they came together to build this case against this gentleman. Do you think this is something that should be done? Or do you think this is kind of ludicrous that they're trying to put this man in prison for essentially terminating properties during his inspection period?
Well, to go to prison and be with those, the thugs or whatever people are in there, and you're like, why are you in jail? Well, I canceled some contracts. You'd be in the wrong place, but or jail or prison. I know they're different, but
in his 60s, by the way.
Yeah. No, I understand how that can be, painful for people, like especially if the dude doesn't know what he's doing, right? But no, jail, no. Maybe a wag of the finger, especially if like he's using the same title company, cancels all 6 at the same. If he took him there, that's kind of my issue with wholesale. I would say that's a lot of people's issues. It's like so many people don't know what they're doing, bro. Like, and there's nothing we can do about it other than educate, right, and show them. But that's why, like, the Payneless way is, I believe, the right way to do it. If you're going to be on market, is I don't really even lock up properties unless I know or have a good idea that I have a buyer in place. And again, a lot of time I don't even put it under my LLC. I will use them and they'll invoice me. So the strategy that I teach, I think, will keep people safe, but it's going to get worse if, like, you have no money, you're using a Google Doc, like, hey, I have $500,000 or whatever. Like, yeah, unfortunately, they're making a bad rep.
What do we do here, Nathan? I mean, this is starting to get serious when they're arresting people.
Yeah.
For this. I mean, as investors, as wholesalers that are doing this the right way.
Right.
This is a little bit scary when you see this, because it's like, I kind of had the same reaction you had when I was telling you a story. There was kind of a chuckle, and then it was like a roll of eyes, like, really? This is really happening? And then all of a sudden, it's kind of like you start thinking about it a little bit more, and you go, well, dude, this is where regulations get brought down, right? We're seeing it more and more. We're seeing, like, here in Texas now, we have to disclose that we're wholesaling. You brought that up. You have to do that in Utah as well. Yeah. Where do you think we're headed? Like, where do you think wholesaling is going to be 5 years from now in comparison to today? And do you think it's going to essentially kind of have to go the direction of the agent outreach?
That's a solid question. I think out assignments eventually will get outlawed. Like you won't be able to sign a contract. I think that would stop a lot of the issues. And then like double closing will be bigger. Buying properties within an LLC and then us, selling the LLC with the property inside, right, to the new buyer. Invoicing, kind of like I said, like just being bird dogs for people. I think that will be, because I don't think you'll be able to ever stop someone finding a good deal and then giving it to someone that will pay them. But I do get it, because it is extremely easy to get a contract on a property with a proof of funds. I think that the agents could do a better job of due diligence of finding out if those proof of funds are legit before they accept the offer. It's pretty simple. Usually there's a number on there to call. So I would say that's not entirely, yes, the guy shouldn't have done that. With six people and you don't have buyers for all six, so you have to cancel that. You're an idiot, dude. Like, come on.
I agree. I guess I wish I could talk to that guy.
Yeah.
I have some questions. I want to be like, hey, did someone tell you to do this?
Exactly.
Because it almost kind of want to be like, I think that's the criminal offense.
Yeah.
If there's someone out there educating, I think there is a responsibility that we have as educators, not only as wholesalers and real estate investors, but as educators, to make sure we're telling people how to do things the right way. Because think about it, dude. If this guy's in his mid-60s, probably spent like, I don't know, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 to try to figure out how to change his life in his final years, right? And now he's potentially looking to go to prison. I don't think he just came up with this idea on his own. I'm just going to be honest with you.
No, for sure. And
it reeks of some bullshit. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and obviously for me, it's like mercy on that, like a 1,000,000,000%. It's like, hey, man, like you said, that story, he's trying to improve his life. It's not criminal at all. Okay,
Right.
It's a slap on the wrist and just say, hey, bro, don't do that. And maybe point him to someone that can help him in the community. It's like, hey, this is a good investor to work with.
You remember that show, Orange is the New Black?
Yeah. I haven't seen it, but I've heard of it. Yeah.
It's kind of like that. That all the people in that show, they basically had like these very minor offenses that they had to go serve like 6 to 9 months.
Yeah.
It's like that. Why are you in here? Well, I tried to wholesale. I wasn't good at it.
Yeah.
So they arrested me.
I watched the video and I was the wrong video to watch.
Exactly.
I had no idea. Wrong
YouTube channel. So should have searched Nathan Payne or RJ Bates.
Yeah, bro. It's crazy. But I just want to say, like, one of the things that I teach and I think is really important is, like, with those relationships, again, you don't even have to lock things up necessarily, especially if you're new, before you understand, like, you have a deal. And it is unfortunate because, like, I get JV deals sent to me. Even yesterday, I looked through 3 of them. They were MLS deals. They locked them up and they're way too high. Like, this is not going to be a deal. So they really are wasting people's time without the knowledge and the blasting it out and hoping somebody will buy it or overpay like that. I think that model too, they're trying to crush that because they actually have in Utah. They're like, hey, you can't just send out properties because you're technically marketing them and you can't. Right. So people are just gonna have to be better at their job at finding deals.
So Nathan, what's funny about that is you looked at 3 JV deals yesterday. Mm-hmm. My team looked at 4 yesterday. 3 of them we denied. Mm-hmm. Those 3 were non-students. The one that we accepted was a student. I mean, and this is not like a sales pitch to say, hey, give me money or give Nathan money. It's, hey, you need to be educated. And there's a reason why those deals are pushed forward. And it was funny because I didn't review the deals. My team reviewed the deals. Mm-hmm. My ISPO guys are the ones that reviewed the deals. And the one that we accepted, it's like my ISPO guy came in after 5 minutes and he said, it's a no-brainer. I'm sending out the JV agreement. The other ones, they were like, I don't know what the guy's seeing. They took like 20, 30 minutes reviewing the deal because they're like, I'm trying to make sense of this. Yeah. Right? They don't want to just deny it because like one was in Seattle.
Yeah.
It's like this could be a home run deal just because it's in Seattle, right? So there's something to be said there about being educated on what to do. I want to ask you,
Sure.
we talked about you just had your first baby. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you, brother. Yeah.
That's a big milestone in anybody's life, but especially as a dad. So moving forward, man, what does this look like for you? I've asked this question for 6 years now. I'm getting back around to asking it more because I just celebrated my 6-year anniversary of the podcast, and I got to go back and listen
Congrats.
to Max Maxwell and Cody Sanchez and the Tim Brotts talk about where they wanted to be in 5 years ago. So it's really cool to see, like,
yeah, that is cool.
Out, dude. So where do you want to be 5 years from now that you're a new dad and everything that you got going on?
Dude, so like I plan out I have a life plan that I reverse engineer to like yearly goals. So I know exactly where I want to go. And it's nothing to people on here. They might be like, that ain't flashy, bro. That ain't cool, but it's cool to me. So my wife is from Canada, and like we love going to visit our family in Canada because they live in cottage country. So they're like up north of Toronto where it's just like cabins and nice lakes. And for me, bro, I love it when I go out there. I know Canada's a little weird on the politics, right? But it's just a different pace of life. Like here in the city of Salt Lake, in Dallas, it's fast and fast paced. And for me, I'm like, I don't like the keeping up with the Joneses style. Like, oh, I feel like I got to drive this. I feel like I got to wear this. Like, that's not my style. Never has been. So my goal, bro, is to move to Canada, live in like a middle of a field with tons of acres on a farm, have my baby girl like picking apples and fruits, and we got goats and all that stuff, and just, wholesale virtually, invest virtually. And money is not, whether I have millions and millions or not, like that lifestyle is not very expensive, and I want a chill lifestyle. So if I can do that, and I will do that, right? That's good for me. So 5 years down the road, you'll be talking, Nate, where you at? I'm on my farm, bro. I'm picking some apples with my baby.
Hey, so listen, I think that's a really cool answer because I think it's a real answer. And I think that's what, like, if everything that I take away from your interview today is how open and honest you are about what you want to be and who you are.
Thank you.
Because in 2023, it's so easy to lie about that. I think there's a lot of honor and respectability to sit there and say, man, I just want to be able to enjoy my time up in Canada and have a farm. Like, that's really cool because it's so easy to be like, I want to be doing $10 million a year. It's like, well,
why, bro?
Maybe. Yeah. But you might die when you're 50 because you're so stressed out.
Yeah. And the reason why I feel like this too is I know a lot of people that die and leave a lot of money behind their kids, and their kids don't appreciate it. Like, it's almost like if that's what you worked for and you didn't even enjoy it, like you didn't even get to use that money, and you leave it to people who just blow it, like on cars, houses, and they didn't appreciate it. It's like, man, you got to enjoy what's truly important in life. And for me, it's God, family, friends, relationships. So that's how it matters.
I love it, man. Well, Nathan, I really appreciate you coming on here today, sharing your story. Looking forward to hanging out with you.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks, Family Mastermind.
I'll see you there, brother.
People that are not currently following you, where's the best place where they can consume some more of your content?
Yeah, so 3 places are pretty good. InvestorThrive.com is, where you can find out like a lot of my resources. I have a YouTube channel. It's just Nathan Payne. Yep. You can find me there. And then I have a free Facebook group that has a ton of my stuff. It's Payneless Flipping, like spelled my last name, Payne, Payneless Flipping. So you go to any of those 3 places, you're going to be able to find me and what I do.
Awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate you joining me today. For those of you that are listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, make sure you leave us a 5-star review. Remember, that's all we accept is 5-star reviews. That's it. If you watch on YouTube, make sure you like the video and hit the subscribe button. Nathan, appreciate you, man.
Later.